Then Ken wants to fight another Ken at the beach, and they call it a beach off.
Yes.
He's like, I'm going to beach you off right now. And the guy's like, you can't beach me off. I'm going to beach you off. And then Barbie goes to break it up, and she's like, all right, nobody is going to beach anybody off.
You are listening to the Silver Screen Happy Hour. I'm Chris Wiegand, along with my brother Jerome. I just wanted to acknowledge before we jump into it that this episode was recorded shortly after the Academy Award nominations were made public, so it was pre-Oscar night. If you want to hear our post-Oscar night thoughts, check out the last episode. And as I get the film reel set up to play today's recording, I'd just like to ask you to please share this with your friends and give us a rating on your favorite podcast app.
What are we doing today?
Barbenheimer.
Heimer.
Barbenheimer.
What you said sounded like a porn title.
Oh, no. Yep, so we are continuing our Oscar nomination series. So we went with two of the big ones this week. And for drinks, I'll just say I got my... It's like a Barbie ginger beer. I don't know. It's like a... It's got ginger beer, pomegranate, kind of. I like mules, so it's really good. So, what are you drinking?
Well, if you remember on the last episode where we did Anatomy of a Fall,
yep,
and Past Lives, and because there were low budget indies, I had a very low budget alcohol, if you remember. So today we're going the actual opposite. Interesting to note, by the way, first of all, both Barbie and Oppenheimer had $100 million budgets, both of them.
Gosh.
And so I thought I'd bring out a nice bottle of Chivas Regal Scotch.
Nice.
So it's not exactly, if I really wanted to go high budget, I could have brought out the Johnny Blue, but Oh, wait. Let me get this in front of the microphone here. I don't know if you got that. Did you get that?
Yeah. Now, okay. Since I was I should say since my wife was such a big fan of Barbie, I did enjoy it. We're going to get to that, but I got a couple White Claws to spare.
Nice.
If I run out.
You are going Barbie out today.
I anticipate this isn't going to be too short, but I don't know. Let's get into it. I'm curious to see how you're going to do the beats on Oppenheimer. Oh my gosh.
It would be interesting to note that the beats actually flow easier in Oppenheimer than they do in Barbie.
Really?
Yeah, okay. Because, all right, let's just get into it. Let's do Barbie first.
Barbie first, okay.
Barbie first. Okay, so if you haven't been living under a rock, Barbie was the biggest movie last year. 2023, directed by Greta Gerwig, written by Gerwig and her husband, Noah Baumbach. This is Gerwig's fourth feature film. She was previously nominated for Best Director and Best Screenplay for 2017's Lady Bird and 2019's Best Adapted Screenplay for Little Women. Margot Robbie, Best Actress, and Gerwig, Best Director, were notable snubs by the Oscar nominations that were released earlier this year. Mm-hmm. Argument can be made, now that I've seen the film, because I remember when the nominations came out, I hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And on that teaser that we released, I wasn't sure how I felt about it being a quote-unquote snub. Now that I've seen it, I can say an argument can be made that Barbie is screenplay-driven.
And they did get nominated for that, right?
And it did get nominated for that. But these, and I know people are going to say, "What? How can you say it's screenplay driven? The visuals,
right.
And the set design, and the production." I get all that. But the genius of Barbie is the story.
Right. It's a great story.
It's screenplay driven. Now, snubs happen. I pulled an example from 2001, Moulin Rouge, which anyone could argue is director-driven. That one is director-driven, mm-hmm. And that was large-scale scope of production and everything. And it was nominated for Best Picture. It had a buttload of nominations, including Nicole Kidman for Best Actress. And the director, Baz Luhrmann, got left out. He didn't get nominated,
right.
So, I mean, and that was when, back then, there was only 5 nominees for Best Picture. So to not get nominated for Best Director, that was a huge snub back in 2001. So it does happen. I can't say that there was anything. I know that the conspiracy theorists are going towards the sexism of Hollywood, leaving out Margot Robbie. But again, obviously Margot Robbie was left out of Best Actress category where 5 women did make it in.
Yeah.
So you can't say that one was sexist. And as far as Best Director, we already said that Justine Triet from Anatomy of the Fall did get nominated, so it can't be sexism. I don't know what it was. It's one of those weird one-offs.
Yeah, and I don't know like what her politics are, but sometimes when someone rubs the Academy the wrong way politically, that weighs in. But I don't know. Where
Anybody
she's at.
watching Barbie telling me that they think Greta Gerwig's politics kept her out of Hollywood's favor? I mean, come on.
Right.
Hollywood and Barbie's politics are pretty much hand in hand. So
yeah, I don't know. Then
it's when I wrote down. I wrote a note. Was just lost in the math. It's one of those where you got somebody doing their card. And they're like, well, I'll have Greta at 6th. She'll make it in, so I don't have to worry about it. I really want to see this person get in or that person get in. Right. And she got left out. Too many people thought that way, and she got left out.
Right. That makes sense. I could see that happening.
Yeah, Barbie is nominated for 8 total Oscars, including Best Picture. Okay, so we already mentioned it stars Margot Robbie as Barbie, and I think when I was re-listening to the Valentine special, I kept saying Margot Robbie. I don't know why
I was going to say, I was going to mention that as we got into it. I'm glad you said it. I
don't even know why. I don't even know why I was mispronouncing it. It was just like...
I caught it when I was editing it, but the to get AI to sound like you is just too much work.
That's because I'm original, okay? There's no fucking AI that can match me.
Fix it.
Right. So, no, it is Margot
I'm glad
Robbie.
you acknowledged that, though.
Yes. I was folding clothes listening to it just to see how it came out, and I'm like, why the fuck do I keep mispronouncing her name?
Anyway, he's probably drunk.
Well, yeah, by that time. And Ryan Gosling as Ken. America Ferrera, Rhea Perlman, and Will Ferrell also star. Was released on July 21st. Another little interesting tidbit.
Yep.
Not only was Barbie and Oppenheimer both $100 million budgets, they were both released on July 21st.
On my oldest daughter's birthday.
They went head-to-head at the box office. And really, the numbers say there was a winner, but really, this is as tight as you can get.
Right.
Both movies, $100 million budget. Barbie made $162 million in its opening weekend. And it went on to gross $1.4 billion worldwide, landing at the number 1 spot. Now, I know you want to know, so I'll just tell you. I won't make you wait. Oppenheimer went on to make $957 million worldwide, good for the number 3 spot on the list, behind only Barbie and the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Wow, that one did that good?
Yes,
holy
worldwide,
crap.
Yes. So, I mean, these 2 movies we're talking about today have all the nominations. They have all the hype. They're going neck and neck at the Oscars. They're going toe-to-toe, and they were released on the same day with the same budget, and both blew the doors off the box office.
Yeah.
Like, how many times can we see that in a single year?
Right.
Never? I mean, I don't know. This might be the only time that's happened.
I'm trying to think. The year you mentioned 94 as being one of the biggest movie years for Best Picture, but were any of those released at the same time?
Forrest Gump was huge, but it wasn't released on the same day as one of the other nominees,
Yeah.
and none of the other nominees made Forrest Gump money. None of them. Shawshank tanked, really. Shawshank became a cult classic.
Wow.
When it hit video. It didn't do that well in the box office. Pulp Fiction was lower, but Pulp Fiction made a good profit because it didn't cost that much to make. But Quiz Show and 4 Weddings and a Funeral, those movies were not, they didn't, rake it in. They weren't huge.
Right.
Maybe 4 Weddings and a Funeral did pretty good. But
nothing like this.
Nothing like Forrest Gump and nothing like this.
I mean, like pairing Titanic up with another, record break, like Avatar or something,
right.
on the same weekend.
Right. The same weekend, dude.
The same day.
Like, this is astounding. Okay, log me.
All right.
Wait. Before we get to that real quick.
Yeah.
This is usually the part we talk about how we came to find about this movie. When did you see it, and what did you think about it when you first saw it?
Well, I first saw it really just maybe a couple of months ago. I believe we rented it, and it was the 4th time my wife saw it when she watched it with me.
Holy shit.
The other 3 times she saw it in the theater.
That's Titanic numbers right
there.
there.
And it wasn't, I mean, she really liked the movie. She normally does not go to the movies, and she usually doesn't see a movie twice at the theater. But there's friends, girlfriends, kids. Our kids wanted to see it with her, so there kept being opportunities for her to go to see it. And I think that happened for millions of women all over the world. So that's why it did so well. So yeah, I just saw it maybe a couple of months ago for the first time.
I just saw it like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I had the entire time it was in the theater, I wanted to see it. my kids are a lot smaller than yours.
Yeah.
So to get away and go to the movies is a production. And the only way it really happens consistently is if it's a kids movie and we take them to the movies with us.
Yeah.
If we're not taking the kids, it's a production. You got to find a babysitter and blah, blah, blah. And the desire there for me was more to see Oppenheimer. I couldn't wait to see Oppenheimer in the theater because I thought if I miss Barbie, I can do Barbie on the small screen if I have to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to miss Oppenheimer on the big screen. So I went IMAX on the fucking Oppenheimer, and it was just amazing. It blew me away. Side note, 2019 Midsummer, which I said was my favorite movie of that year and got no nominations.
Yeah.
My favorite movie of 2023 is Oppenheimer. Barbie's up there, but Oppenheimer's my favorite film of the year, and both starred Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I have a new crush on Florence Pugh.
Oh, mine's not new.
Yeah, pretty much since Midsummer I've been crushing. But no, she's awesome and she's great in that one. But we will get to Oppenheimer when we get to it.
Yes.
Back to Barbie. So I just saw it a week or so ago for this podcast. Again, been putting it off. And I was glad that it's on HBO Max. So I didn't have to buy it or rent it. You know, it's just I get it with the subscription. Whereas Oppenheimer, I saw it in the theater, but then had to rent it again on streaming because I had forgotten since last July a lot of the key points. But anyway, so I loved it. And I got to say, not just to prepare for the podcast, I watched it 3 times.
Oh, really?
In like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
A week and a half or whatever it was. I watched it like 3 times. Now, one of the times I went back just to get like certain quotes I wanted to get right.
Right.
And certain minutes I wanted to see, like, when did that exactly happen? When did that beat happen? But mostly I watched it for enjoyment, at least twice, just watching it for enjoyment.
Yeah.
I thought it was unique, clever, very, very funny.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Nostalgic especially for all the women who, when they were little girls, had one of those Barbies, you know?
Yeah, and again, I never played with Barbies, but we had a sister, you know? And like the stuff about the dream house and everything, it just kind of brought back all those memories of like Amy with all her shit, you know? And it's just like, God, I remember the fucking Corvette. Remember the Corvette? And yeah, so I don't know. It was a great experience. And it's very, like you said, you mentioned politics earlier. It is very sort of on the nose for the time that we're living in right now, as far as equality in our society.
It was, but in my, like, people who like were really like up in arms about the wokeness or whatever the hell they were talking about. Jessie, my wife, she kind of helped me put it in perspective, because when she was a little girl, it was Barbie's world. It had nothing to do with Ken. Ken was like an afterthought, which is what he was in the movie.
Oh, he totally
You
is.
know, and they totally played that, and it was hilarious. And so I wasn't offended because that was the girls' culture of Barbie. I mean, that's what it was about.
I was watching it though, waiting to be offended. And
Yeah,
I never got offended.
I never
and
got
I was
offended.
I was like, I don't know what all the piss is about. You know, like I mean, there was a moment, and we'll get to it on the beats, where I remember thinking, that's kind of horseshit. But then they fixed it up, and I was like, okay, I see where Greta's going now.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I don't remember what part you're talking about, but I know there's some parts where they kind of play on an idea, and you go, and then they acknowledge it. You know,
well,
like,
yeah, it wasn't so much that, but it was like when we get to the beats, we'll get to it where their plan at the end is to make it go back to how it was. And I was like, why is that okay? Like, that's shitty, right? Like,
yeah.
That was didn't you learn your lesson? And then I realized where Greta was taking me. I'm like, all right, Barbie hasn't learned her lesson yet. That's right. She hasn't reached her spiritual goal yet. Duh. So then when they got to it, and I was like, okay. But for like a split second, I was like, wait a minute, that's not gonna sit right. But okay, all right, here we go.
All right, log me. Barbie and Ken are having the time of their lives in the colorful and seemingly perfect world of Barbieland. However, when they get a chance to go to the real world, they soon discover the joys and perils of living among humans. That's it. I know, it's not a great long line.
Not great. First of all, it's not factual. Living among humans, they're literally there a half a day. Right. So how are they living among the humans?
I did enjoy that sequence, though, when they first arrived. Though. That was great.
Act two. Upside down world, right? We talk about it all the time. Is that not a perfect mirror flip of Act 1?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, all right. we have
The Beats.
Opening image. I love the opening to this movie. It's an homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick. And it's the whole, also Sprach Zarathustra music is playing. And it's, you've seen 2001, right?
Yeah.
With the monolith and everything. Yeah. So, and instead of apes cracking bones, it's the little girls smashing their baby dolls. And I was waiting for it because when I first saw it, I was with V, my wife. And I was like, because one of the key moments at the end of that sequence of 2001 is where the monkey throws the bone up in the air and they show the bone spinning. And as all this smashing is going on, I looked at me and I go, please tell me somebody's going to throw a doll up in the air. They're going to do the same thing and throw it down. And sure enough, it ends with one of the girls throwing her doll up in the air like she was one of the monkeys. Yes. And the thing is spinning. And I was like, oh, such a great homage to 2001. So, okay. And yeah, the opening image. So Barbie broke the mold is the basic point of the opening image. Theme stated in the opening monologue by Helen Mirren, who, by the way, was in 2010, the year we made contact.
Yep.
At the 4-minute mark, she says, quote, because Barbie can be anything, women can be anything. And that is Barbie's running theme throughout the whole film because it's Barbie who struggles with what she wants to be, what she thinks she wants to be, what she needs to be, and what she thinks she needs to be.
Right.
She's in complete confusion, and that is sort of the theme. What do you want? What do you want to be? Because Barbie can be anything. And because Barbie can be anything, women can be anything. Okay, inciting incident. 14 minutes in at the girls' night party, Barbie says, anyone ever think about dying? Which, when this happens, by the way, it doesn't just with the record and like everybody stops talking and shocks the hell out of all the other Barbies. It shocked me too. Like I didn't see that coming at all because they're having this great dance sequence where everything is perfect. Why would you say that? And like, sure enough, when they're like looking at her, she's like, I don't know why I just said that. Like, she doesn't even know why she just said that. But anyway, it completely disrupts the party momentarily before Barbie brings it back. It's an inciting incident, in my opinion, because she doesn't even know why she said it. And it's going to lead to the catalyst. We're not there yet, right? Obviously, it's way too early. We're not in second act 2 yet, but it's the first inkling that something is wrong, right? Okay, catalyst at 22 minutes after the flat feet scare scene at the beach, which is funny. This movie is loaded with hilarity, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Just every time something happened was fucking. The way they did it was hilarious. She's encouraged to meet with the frightening Weird Barbie to find out what's going on. Weird Barbie, of course, played by Kate McKinnon. Right. Perfectly, by the way. Perfect. If you were going to get somebody to play Weird Barbie.
Was she nominated for anything?
Not that I know of. I'd have to look at Best Supporting Actress, but I think it's America Ferrera.
Yeah, America
Gloria.
Ferrera did get nominated, yeah.
I think she's nominated. So this is where Weird Barbie tells her that there's a ripple in the continuum and she must go to the real world to fix it. Debate begins. This debate is quick. Now, remember we said that debate begins after your catalyst, but before you jump into Act 2. Sometimes it's 5 seconds. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, just like Dark Knight of the Soul. Sometimes your character doesn't need a hell of a lot of time to debate. And this is one of those that's pretty quick. Barbie just, pretty much, all right, this is what I got to do. She's a little unsure during the send-off. She's a little nervous. She's a little scared. The other Kens are daring Ken to go with her. So there's that little scene as kind of the debate begins. Break into 2. Obviously, Ken and Barbie arrive in real world. They head to the real world, 26-minute mark, propelling us into Act 2, which is a mirror flip of Act 1, where their lives are now turned upside down. Again, in a really good screenplays, you know when you're in Act 2, right? Because your characters are now in like no man land, right?
Yeah.
They're like it's not a world that they are familiar with. The fun and games. Act 2 opens with some trailer images that deliver the premise. Barbie and Ken are arrested twice. One of the times they let them keep the clothes, which I thought was funny. Yeah. Barbie tries to channel the girl who created all this mayhem in Barbieland. B story. When do I say the B story comes in? Do you remember? Around half hour in, usually? Well, here, it's no different. Just around the 36-minute mark, Gloria is introduced as the Mattel executive assistant.
Right.
Gloria is the B story because her purpose is to drive Barbie to her spiritual goal.
Yeah.
A goal she does not yet know or realize that she needs. More fun and games as Barbie finds Sasha, a girl she thinks is the one causing the ripple in the continuum, and she gets savagely told off. Almost saddeningly. Like, my heart was breaking for Barbie as they were just ripping into her. Ken discovers the real world is run by men, including one boss who tells him that there still is a patriarchy, but, quote, we just hide it better now. Wow. Is that not Greta?
Right.
Is that not Greta just winking and like thumbing her thumb at everyone? All right. Will Ferrell's introduced as the Mattel CEO, and God, another great role for him. And then an ensuing chase scene where they want to get her back in the box, Ken escapes and heads back to Barbieland. Midpoint scene, 56 minutes in. By the way, I think I wrote it under the funny lines. Yeah, under funny moments, but I'll just say it here. In that scene where Will Ferrell is trying to explain that they love women, everybody here loves women because Barbie questions, why are there no women CEO? Why there's no women in here?
Right.
And he's like, and he's trying to defend himself, and he's all, we love women. We are the sons of women. We are nephews of aunts, you know? And then he says, out of the blue, he goes, some of my best friends are Jewish. What the fuck? like, where did that even come from?
Right.
Like, I was watching on my recliner, and I fucking laughed out loud, like, busted out. Like, where did that even come from? Like, everything is, we are sons of women, and blah, 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 we love women. And then some of my best friends are Jewish. What the fuck? And Barbie, that goes right over her head. Like, she has no idea what the hell he's even talking about, right? All right, midpoint, 56 minutes in. After Gloria and Sasha, her daughter, help Barbie escape the clutches of Mattel, Barbie learns that Gloria is the one that created the ripple in the continuum. She was the one who played with Barbie as a child. This is a false victory because just meeting her, which is her tangible goal, she wanted to meet the girl that was causing all this mayhem, won't be enough to fix the issues. And instead, she decides to get them and bring them back to Barbieland with her. And we all know what happens in the second half of the film, right? Mm-hmm. All right, bad guys closing in. As soon as they return, they see that Ken has completely altered Barbieland. At the 1 hour, 6 minute mark, Gloria says, well, this is hard, obviously, for Barbie to take. Gloria says to her at 1 hour, 6 minutes, that's life. It's all change. In which Barbie responds, that's terrifying. I don't want that. Right? So, still far from her spiritual goal.
Which is such a, that line is so, so relatable. Right. Everyone hates change, right?
Well, and you know what? And I've had this discussion with somebody before. That's pretty much, I don't want to say all of politics, but a real big wedge in today's political structure of left and right. It's change, right? Traditionalism. People don't like change, right? And when people start taking down statues and shit, right? Like, it's like terrifying. It's like, why all of a sudden now are we changing this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the best I tried to equate it was, there was a time when slavery was legal and accepted. And when that changed, imagine everybody in America going, what? We got to do our own work now? Or pay someone? Like, that's a change, right? Like, and look, obviously the pushback was so big, it caused a civil war. So, I mean, just that, obviously that's a very large scale. But on a small scale, change is terrifying.
Yeah.
For everyone, right? Just even little things. Like, things I used to do all the time, I can't do anymore because I have kids. Kind of sucks, but it's just how it is. You know what I mean? You have a family now, things are different. Your life changes. So anyway, yeah, you're right. That's life, it's all change. And she says, that's terrifying. I don't want that. All right, so Ken then kicks her out of her house. Gloria and Sasha decide to leave. There is one moment, though, before as they go to leave, Gloria picks up a blouse and says, oh, this might fit me. I don't know if you caught that. Weird Barbie comes to collect Barbie, and Gloria and Sasha, discovering Alan was trying to escape, they all decide to return. Alan, by the way, has a little fight scene where he beats up a bunch of construction workers. That was kind of funny. All is lost. All right, Barbie is at her lowest point now. She feels ugly and feels like she has lost everything. She's verbalizing this to Gloria in tears. And at the 1 hour, 14-minute mark, you once again hear narrator Helen Mirren say, and I quote, note to the filmmakers, Margot Robbie is the wrong person to cast if you want to make this point.
That is so good.
The fucking hilarity of this movie, even in moments of despair, and all is lost. Like Greta's still like, no, I'm gonna throw a dinger in there somewhere. You know, like I mean, God, that's why I say it's screenplay driven.
Yeah.
Because this shit's all writing.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right,
This
right.
is all writing. All right, Dark Night of the Soul. Gloria makes her Oscar speech about how contradicting the whole thing is about being a woman in the real world. It's a great speech, and she goes through. I don't have the whole thing quoted because it's a long one, but she talks about the contradictions. We have to be thin, but not too thin.
Right.
We have to look good, but we can't tease men. Like she goes on and on and on. And I actually wrote this down. Not only is it's eye-opening, I think, for men and for me personally, like listening to her list all those things out.
Yeah.
I'm going to sound a little bit like I did when we did the Promising Young Thelma episode. It really kind of opens your eyes as a guy. You're
Yeah.
Fuck, do they really feel that way about all of that shit?
Yeah, I had a similar experience because it reminded me of when I watched The Promising Young Woman.
Yeah.
And because I had that similar experience because you're watching that as a man where there's men taking advantage of women or trying to take advantage of women and all that. And it was like gross. And yeah, you just, but yeah, this was different, but it was still, you're experiencing it as a man going, yeah, this ain't right, man.
These movies are making us woke, Chris. But no, I mean, but honestly, all jokes aside, I remember thinking like, fuck, like I never looked at it from that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that it was that hard. You know what I mean? Like I was like, wow. And then again, like you said, when we did Promising Young Women, the movie was Promising Young Woman, but the name of our episode was Promising Young Thelma. Anyone that's confused right now, we did a podcast episode about it, and yeah, it really brought me back to that. Like shit, like once again, I'm looking at something from a female point of view that I didn't realize before.
Yeah, and I'd push back against the whole word woke because, I mean. That has so many.
Most people use it, don't know.
Well, yeah, and the way it's used is usually in some kind of charged political conversation or whatever.
Right, they're not even using it right.
This is just being a decent human being, acknowledging someone else's struggle. I mean, come on, it's not being woke. Shut up.
Well, actually, that was originally what the word woke was supposed to mean.
Yeah, but it's devolved into something completely different is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, it's being abused. Okay, break into 3. Gloria's speech resets one of the Barbies in the room. And they realize this is how we're going to break the brainwashing. Gloria now, which is funny that they mention it, but I remember thinking, wait a minute, she's got to do word for word that whole fucking speech again to every Barbie. But they're just like, yep, that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. All right, 5-point finale. Are you ready?
Yeah.
That's obviously the first one's easy, gathering the team. The weird Barbie gets out the map of Barbieland, and they come up with a plan on how they're going to reset the Barbies, right? Execution of the plan. They actually pull it off. They confuse the Kens. They pull a Barbie away. They brainwash her back. Well, I don't say they break the brainwashing.
Right.
And then they use the new Barbie, or the fixed Barbie, I guess you would say, to help them with the rest of the plan. So the executing of the plan goes almost perfectly. It works like a charm. They even get the Kens to fight each other after the serenade, which, by the way, they use the song Push as their serenade song. I want to push you around.
Yeah.
Like that's their idea of a great romantic serenade song. Like, all right, so then all this distraction is going on so that the Barbies can then vote, right, on how the new Constitution.
Right.
Hightower surprise. Gravity of it unknown to Barbie until this moment. She realizes when Ken is breaking down how much she really hurt him and that the problem was identity, Ken's identity or lack thereof. She says, quote, maybe all the things you thought made you aren't really you. Right? Big moment for Ken and Barbie because now she's starting to get closer to that spiritual goal. Right?
Right.
Who do you really want to be?
Yep.
Dig down deep. Ken, after a few failed attempts to again be Barbie's boyfriend by trying to plan a kiss on her, he realizes his place is to just find himself. He starts saying, Ken is me. And he says, quote, Barbie says, maybe instead of Barbie and Ken, it's Barbie and it's Ken. Right? Which is her eye-opening moment. Execution of the new plan. The Mattel CEO and bosses want everything to go back to how it was, but President Barbie is the first to shut that down in favor of the new Barbieland, which is a little bit more of equality.
Right.
Not all the way, and Helen Mirren's voiceover even says, we're not ready for equal parts of the Supreme Court. Helen Mirren says, the men will represent about as much as the women do in today's real world. Again, just a little, hey, you can't have it both ways. So, okay. So again, right before that whole jump into Act 3 with the 5-point finale, that's where I was put off for a second, just a second. I was like, wait a minute, they wanted to go back to how it was.
Right.
Ken clearly told her when he was kicking her out of her house, it doesn't feel too good now, does it? So she knew that she was making him feel like shit. And now they want to go back to that. I had a problem with. But Greta, in her creative way, made it to where Barbie hadn't reached her spiritual goal yet. And when she does, they still have power. They still have more power than the men, but there is more of a sense of equality. And it's more about the Kens finding themselves as well as the Barbies finding themselves.
Right.
The Barbies were all independent before. One wrote, remember the one says, I did write a book. You know what I mean? One of them was president. One of them was this. One of them was that. The Kens were none of that.
Right.
There was Beach Ken, which, by the way, I'm going to get to that in a second.
How many Beach Kens were there?
But that was basically their existence, right?
Yeah.
So this is a spiritual goal, not just for Barbie, but for the Kens in the movie, too.
Right.
So I think that was a major point of the equality at the end. Climax, Ruth returns and Barbie's unsure of her future. She says, quote, maybe I'm not Barbie, and suggests a change is needed. The change that she once was terrified of, mind you. Ruth says, you understand, this is quote, you understand that humans only have one ending. Ideas live forever. Humans, not so much. But she's okay with that, right? Because she says, I'd rather be part of the living part of it, right? Barbie becomes human, achieving her spiritual goal, discovering what she really, really wanted and needed to be. Again, what do we always talk about arc? If you were to take the person at the end and put him at the beginning, if you were to told Barbie at the beginning of this movie, you're going to be human,
right?
What would she have said? Fuck you, I'm going to be human. She doesn't want that at all, right? So you got to go through that growth. You got to go through that journey. Closing image, Barbie goes to her gynecologist's office, which I thought here's how my fucked up mind works. When she first said, I'm here to see my gynecologist, again, this is why Greta Gerwig made this movie. Somebody like me, my first thought wasn't, oh, that's right, because she has a vagina now. She's now anatomically correct. She's a human, so she has a vagina. No, I jumped over that and I went to, she's pregnant already? And then a half a second went by and went, oh, you fucking idiot. Right. You obviously need to watch the movie again because you
haven't learned
are
your
not.
lesson.
I haven't learned my spiritual goal, which is women are not just there to be Ken's baby mama. So I had to self-correct and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought that for a moment. And by the way, I'm admitting a lot right now saying that. I could have buried all that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm going to be truthful to the audience, to the listeners, that I too... that Greta Gerwig made this movie for people like me.
Yeah.
So
right.
I had to backtrack and be like, no. She's anatomically correct now. She's got a vagina, so she needs to see a gynecologist. Makes sense. And I was a little ashamed that my first thought was, what? She's pregnant already? All right. Notes again on the arc. Barbie's tangible goal is to find out who or what caused the ripple in the continuum. She achieves that in the midpoint scene. Her spiritual goal, obviously, was to discover what she truly needs to be, and that was to be human. All right, some funny moments. So we've got empty cups and empty showers. All of that sets up pretty great, right? Where they go to drink something, but there's nothing in the cup, right?
Yeah.
And then when she goes in the shower, there's no water coming down, but yet she feels like it's great and everything. But then after things start to get weird, she feels cold water, even though there's still no water coming down. Yeah. But she reacts to it like it's cold. Her food is burnt, right? Yeah. She has bad breath when she wakes up in the morning. All these are great. And then Ken wants to fight another Ken at the beach, and they call it a beach off.
Yes.
He's like, I'm going to beat you off right now. And the guy's like, you can't beach me off. I'm going to beat you off. And then Barbie goes to break it up, and she's like, all right, nobody is going to beach anybody off.
I felt like they put that in there for all the few Neanderthals that are going to be dragged to this movie. Here's a little something for you guys.
Yes, people like me. All right.
Something for everybody.
So when she goes to Mattel, this is another funny moment. When she goes to Mattel, they give her real water to drink, and she does the thing like she thinks nothing's going to come out, but the water all comes out on her face. And you know what it reminded me of? Ted Stryker's drinking problem in the movie Airplane.
Airplane, yes.
So that was a great moment. I already mentioned Will Ferrell in his We Love Women speech. Some of my best friends are Jewish. All right, trivia. America Ferrera, who plays Gloria, has her husband in the movie played by her real-life husband.
Oh, really?
Ryan Pierce Williams.
I didn't know that.
Gal Gadot, who plays Wonder Woman, was originally considered for the role of Barbie, but she was unavailable. Here's my last piece of trivia before I turn it over to you on any thoughts or added trivia that you might have. It's nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, although it is not based on any previously published movie, book, show, or anything.
It's because the Barbie character, right?
Yes, but it's nominated for Best Original Screenplay in almost every other award show this year. The Writers Guild had it in the original category.
Wow.
I think the Golden Globes had it in the original category.
Yeah. And
only the Oscars are deviating.
Yeah, and that I was upset about when I saw it because knowing how original this story was.
Right.
I was like, come on, man. Just because it's based on a character named Barbie, they had to make it an adapted screenplay? I'm like, ugh.
If you want to scream conspiracy politics with Oscars, you could argue this, because I looked into it a little bit deeper. Bradley Cooper has 12 Academy Award nominations. He's never won. He's likely not going to win for Maestro. Best Director or Best Actor, probably. But he is up for screenplay because he wrote the screenplay. So by putting her in the adapted category, it kind of clears the avenue a little bit for Bradley Cooper to win Best Original Screenplay for Maestro.
Yeah, he could finally get one.
But here the counterpoint is, well, wait, by putting her in the adapted category, she now has to go up against Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer. But you know how voters are. They could say, no. Greta gets that one. Nolan's going to get Best Picture and Best Director. Right? So he's not a threat in the adapted screenplay category. That's hers to win.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So if you believe in the 5,000 Academy members all get together on a Zoom chat and work this shit out, that's where the only thing I could come up with as why they would make it an original screenplay.
Right.
Or, adapted. To get it out of the original screenplay category. Which, isn't it ironic? Because if what I say is true, Bradley Cooper is nominated for Best Original Screenplay for writing an original story about a real-life person. Mm-hmm. But yet Barbie has to go in the adapted category because it's a made-up story about a made-up thing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, right.
So,
I don't know.
But okay. Oscar politics. All right, what do you think?
Well, you already heard my thoughts. I enjoyed the movie. So when I saw the nominations, I wasn't all that upset that Margot Robbie wasn't nominated. I mean, she did a fine job, but I haven't watched all the performances for best actor. Right. But I just held out judgment because I'm still not sure because I haven't seen everybody yet.
Sure.
But when I saw the nomination for America Ferrera, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, I'm probably going to get lots of hate mail.
Uh-oh.
I felt like she was the same character she is in like Superstore or whatever. Is that the show, Superstore? She played America Ferrera. I don't know.
I don't know though if the nomination or an ensuing Oscar, which I don't even know if she's the front runner, I don't know if a lot of that is that they play somebody different from them.
No, I know.
Sometimes it's their impact on the film, right?
Yeah.
And her impact on this film, she's the Obi-Wan of this movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, Alec Guinness was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Did he really go outside of his acting chops for Star Wars? He pretty much was an old man walking around with a robe on. But his impact was large.
Well, and again, like I said, I'm not comparing her to all the other Best Supporting Actress.
I don't even know if I've seen the other ones yet.
Right.
I don't even know.
But anyway, I mean, I like her.
That's fair criticism.
You know, I like her, and you know, she is a good actor.
It's fair criticism because the counterpoint is the Heath Ledger argument, whereas when somebody completely disappears into a role,
right, then
and
you
can't even tell it's them.
Yeah,
you're like, well, for sure they're gonna win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I get it. I've seen so many supporting actors and actresses come and go that it doesn't seem like the role itself is demanding as far as acting.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes their impact is more. Juliette Binoche won for The English Patient. The really terrible English Patient. But Juliette Binoche won Best Supporting Actress for that. I don't think she did anything out of her normal shit that she had done. She's a French actress that makes French movies.
And it's not just the normal stuff they've done, but like, what's his name? Paul Giamatti. He can the way that guy can just memorize his lines and deliver them in such a way. It's just, I don't know. He'll make me hold my breath when he's talking. You know what I mean? And I haven't seen the movie he's in. That's up for. Is it up for Best Picture?
I bought it.
Is it up for Best Picture?
Yeah, I bought it.
Yeah, I got to see that one.
It's our target right now.
And we got to do that one next.
I bought it. The Holdovers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but he's kind of like Meryl Streep. You know, you give him anything and they can make something out of it. You know what I mean? You could, like I said before, you could give Meryl Streep a friggin' phone book and say, read this, and it would be the greatest reading of a phone book you've ever heard in your life. You know what I mean? Like, just some people, I mean, and I'm not trying to say that America Ferrera is not Meryl Streep, but I feel like her impact in this movie was enough. I could see the nomination based on impact alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I think about other actors, like you mentioned Florence Pugh. Holy crap. I mean, the variation of characters she's played in just the few movies I've seen her in.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap, man. She can really, I don't know, be a convincing presence in different roles. So.
And she's in the new Dune, right? She's in the Dune sequel.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's
looking forward to
everywhere.
that. That's coming out in March. Yeah, I love her. She's great. But, okay, so are we going to officially close the book on Barbie?
Until the sequel comes out.
Yeah, I think, which would be awesome if they did a sequel. But no, I mean, again, to your point, I haven't seen all the movies that are nominated for Best Director yet. I cannot say if it's truly a snub. It seems like a snub because when you've directed the film that has a lot of production design and imagery and visuals, and it was the #1 movie of the year, making $1.4 billion.
And even the music, like as a director, she played a big role in putting that together. So
absolutely. And your film gets 8 Academy Award nominations. Yeah, it's a snub if you don't get nominated for Best Director when you have all that shit on your resume for that one movie. But again, I think it was just a math issue. I think when people were filling out their cards, they were like, she'll get in, I don't have to include her. I want to see Didier get in, or I want to see, obviously I got to put Nolan #1 or whatever. I don't know. Oh, I got to put Scorsese in because Scorsese always in, like whatever. I don't know how their math was. But it just worked out that she got left out of the cut. I mean, if there was allowed 6 nominees, she's probably in.
Well, I hope Barbie at least does well with the nominations I got.
So,
we'll see.
Real quick, what do you got for predictions?
I don't have any. I didn't predict anything.
I don't think Ryan Gosling wins Best Supporting Actor, and I'll tell you why. That dude's got a lot of range. He's had some great movies. He's been up for Best Actor before. And he's had some great performances that I don't think his crowning achievement is to be Ken. I just don't. I don't.
Well, and we've gone over this before, though, too. So, like, Denzel's crowning achievement wasn't Training Day.
True, but he was much older. Ryan's still relatively young. Ryan's got his Leo years coming up, right?
Same with Al Pacino, right?
Well, yeah, but Pacino and Denzel were definitely makeup awards.
Those were.
But Leo, I don't think The Revenant was a makeup award. I think it was the perfect timing.
He wasn't only just due. That was a great performance. So.
And I think Ryan's Revenant is out there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think you're right.
So unfortunately, I don't see Barbie taking a lot that night. I think Billie Eilish should win for song. By the way, there's 2 songs, up for Best Song at the Oscars. It's also the I Am Ken song.
Oh, really?
The one during the end when he's got that whole big thing. He's got the big production moment, right? The guy that wrote that song is up for Best Song, too. But I really
Did Ryan Gosling sing that?
I don't know.
Because then he'd get the award, wouldn't he?
No. It goes to whoever wrote the song.
Whoever wrote it, okay.
So, I do see Billie Eilish winning for What Was I Made For.
Uh-huh. Great song.
it was not only a great song, but remember I said I had heard of the song before I knew it was part of the movie.
Right.
It serves as sort of unofficial soundtrack moments, right? Mm-hmm. Where like the deepest, saddest parts are coming. That song, the music from that song is being played.
Yeah.
You know, much like Ode to Joy, the Beethoven song was the unofficial soundtrack for Die Hard, right? Like, they just kept playing that song over and over again.
Right.
Celine Dion's song, My Heart Will Go On from Titanic.
Yeah.
That was like the unofficial soundtrack song, right? Like, that music kept coming up over and over in that movie. So I really think her song was more impactful than the Ken song. So I think she should win. Probably production and costume. I can't remember which one of those it's up for, but it might win those. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, Greta. I got Greta winning Best Adapted Screenplay. So a couple of big wins there.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if Billie Eilish and Greta Gerwig could both win Oscars that night.
Are you going to have squares like with the Super Bowl that we can bet on?
I do. I don't have bets, but I do send my picks to Caitlin every year. She'll tell you that. Chris's daughter, Caitlin, is as into movies as I am. And every year, like the day of, I always wait to the day of because you can never make your predictions too early because the vibe starts to change. Because people in Hollywood start talking, and they start talking about who they voted for. Yeah. So then when you start to see the pendulum swing, you're like, oh, shit, everything's going Parasite now. You know what I mean? Oh, shit, everything's going Coda now. You know, so I always wait to the last day, and I hear the buzz on the street. I put my ear to the sidewalk, and I hear what the buzz on the street is, and I'll send my predictions to Caitlin. She's always the first person I send my predictions to.
Yeah.
But so unless it changes, that's where I'm at right now. Best original song, best adapted screenplay.
Yep.
You know, maybe costume or productions in there. I'd have to look at the nominations.
Yeah. Well, we did this first one in less than an hour. Can we do Oppenheimer in less than 3?
Can the movie be less than 3? For those of you that don't know, Oppenheimer is exactly to the minute 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But didn't it kind of move quickly?
I don't know, man. When I was watching it last night, I kept dozing off.
Oh, see, you do what V does. V always gets in bed after a long day of work. And
it wasn't that late. It wasn't that late, but it was after work, and it was like, I don't know. I think I started at like 6, so it wasn't late at all.
Wait, 6 o'clock your time?
Yeah, 6 p.m.
What's your problem, you old man?
I'm like an hour in, and it's just, I don't know. We're gonna get into it. So
here's why I think I'll mention it right now. Why I think it works for 3 hours. The scenes are short.
Well, and it's all the flashbacks and back and forth, and you get in a comfy chair.
By the way, yeah. I had to, a couple of things. First of all, Barbie. If I always write down the scenes, right? I do a scene list as I go. It helps me dictate beats if I'm having trouble finding beats. Didn't have any trouble with Barbie or Oppenheimer. But like for Fat Man, I needed to write down all the scenes because I couldn't figure out the fucking beats for that movie to save my life. But anyway, so I always do as just a habit. I'll write down the scenes. And I noticed that after the midpoint scene of Barbie, the second half seemed to go really quick. And I remember not as many scenes were written down. And I remember thinking, well, how is that possible? Minutes-wise, it's exactly halfway through. And then it occurred to me. Greta's structure of that film, the first half of the film are quick scenes. They're going pretty quickly, right? Like, you don't spend a lot of time in any one scene. There's quick shots. You're seeing this. You get a lot of Will Ferrell humor. There's, things are going back and back. Once you get into that second act where she gets back to Barbieland and everything's gone to shit and it becomes Kendom. I like how he calls it Kendom, by the way. It sounds like condom, doesn't it? I know he was going for kingdom, but he named it Kendom. But it rolls off like he's saying condom. But anyway, when she gets back to condom, the scenes are a lot slower. Mm-hmm. Right? There's more time. The Gloria speech, for example, the weird Barbie moments. Like, there's just, the scenes are longer.
Yeah.
So there might be less scenes per se, but they take up more time.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer has an interesting situation of where the whole first half of Barbie is like Oppenheimer's 3 hours. The scenes are quick.
Yeah.
They don't spend a lot of time on any one scene. There's no 5-minute dialogue scene in Oppenheimer. They go pretty quick. It's this happened at this time. Then this happened at this time. And then this happened. You know what I mean? Like, you're just moving right along. And I remember telling V that when we were in the theater. I was like, dude, I know it's 3 hours, but I feel like it's not. Like, it feels like it moves quickly. And that's one of the notations I put, that I really liked the way that Nolan did that, because if the case of Benjamin Buttons is any indication, a long movie can feel twice as long if it has long scenes.
Right.
Right? So, all right. Oppenheimer, 2023, written for the screen and directed by Christopher Nolan, based on the novel American Prometheus, the triumph and tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer by Kai Bird and Martin Sherwin. Starring Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., which that is my pick for Best Supporting Actor now that I think about it.
He was great, yeah.
This is why I don't think Ken is winning. Robert Downey Jr., this is his year. Released on July 21st, same as Barbie. And just like Barbie, had a $100 million budget. Went on to gross, as I said, $957 million. Good for third on the worldwide list. Log me.
Can I just say at the outset, this is a horrible log line. It's just one sentence. Here we go.
All right.
The story of American scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer and his role in the development of the atomic bomb. Boom.
Boom. No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
I mean,
so, quick, one line, no hook. There's no hook.
No hook.
It definitely comes off like a biography tagline.
Yeah.
Right? Like a log line that you would put for a biography. The rise and fall of Elvis Presley. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. There's nothing there that would draw me to that other than if I really wanted to know how the atomic bomb was made.
Yeah.
Right? I agree, but cleaner. It's pretty clean, right? It's just one. This is what the movie's about. Boom, right? But yeah, not a lot there. What are you doing? Are you pulling out the fentanyl? Oh, okay.
Time for Barbie drink number 2.
So before we get into the beats, again, your relationship. I already told you mine. I saw it. I had to see it when it was in theaters last year. I saw it on the IMAX. Blew me away. That's not him pissing, by the way.
You got to clarify.
Yeah, because if those were the bubbles of his piss, it's fizzing like that.
God.
He's got to go see the doctor.
Cheers.
So anyway, yeah, cheers. So I loved it. And again, as I've always said, that there's always one year, right? There's always one movie that I love more than anything else, whether or not it gets nominated. Like I said, Midsommar had no nominations, but in 2019, I walked out of the theater knowing I'm not going to see a better movie this year. But and I felt the same way with Oppenheimer. I was excited to see Barbie, but when I walked out of Oppenheimer, I remember saying I am not going to see a better movie this year.
I wish I would have bought it. I rented it yesterday. So yesterday's the first time I saw it. That's my relationship to it. I watched about half of it and had to finish the other half on my phone. The guy that tells everyone to go support their local cinema.
You bastard.
I know.
How could you do that?
I feel like such a traitor.
You are.
Yeah, so I need to rewatch it. So that's why I wish I would have bought it, because now I got to rent it again. I mean, never wait till it comes out again on a streaming service.
Did you ever get back to Anatomy of a Fall, by the way?
No, I never rewatched that one. I want to, though.
But you really just rewatched the third act. You didn't even have to rewatch the whole thing.
Right. But yeah, Oppenheimer. So I felt like, just my initial reaction, I'm going to give you that right now. I felt like not quite as strongly as you did in About Time when it came to Oppenheimer's PTSD. I'm like, get over it, man. You created the bomb. You deserve to feel that way. And the whole time, was he nominated for anything?
Cillian Murphy?
Yeah, best actor. So if he wins for this.
For those of you that can't see him right now, my brother's acting. And
no, I'm not. I'm just staring into space, because that's what he did for 3 hours. He just stared into space.
How dare you?
I don't know. I'm not very sympathetic. So
apparently.
The blood is on his hands.
Yeah, which we'll get to that Truman scene, by the way, because there's, from what I understand, that scene that he has with Truman is very factual.
Is it really?
That he did say, I have blood on my hands, and Truman said, I got twice as many as yours, and he pulls out a napkin to give to him. And then when he left, he said, don't ever let that crybaby in here again.
Right. So
from what I understand from the book.
That was my favorite scene of the whole movie.
That Truman scene was very real.
I was cheering Truman on. I was like, yeah, shut up, you crybaby.
To be fair, he did kill 200,000 people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I don't feel bad for him. I mean, yes, you have a long lost, stare in your eye that's probably not going to go away until you're gone. Oh, well.
I think the stare was more than that, as we'll get to it.
But, I mean, the whole thing, though. So the whole story of creating the bomb for military purposes, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a horrible factual story.
But didn't you get the sense? Sorry, I gotta pull out my lightsaber for this. Now that I'm done with that scotch. All right, ready? Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3. All right. I envision, like, you guys hear a can cracking open. I hear Luke turning on his lightsaber from Return of the Jedi. The green one. That very specific sound the green one made, that's what I hear when I open a beer. Anyway, that's pretty bad. I should get some help. Okay. What was I talking about? Oh, what I thought that they did really well in this film was let you know how competitive physicists are. And I never really knew that until I binged the entire show, The Big Bang Theory, and realized how competitive physicists really are, right? They don't want anybody else to fucking discover anything. They want to be the one. It's so self-important. And they do a pretty good job of that, where he's fighting to beat the Germans to get the bomb to save America. But in reality, he's trying to beat Heisenberg to get the bomb before Heisenberg does.
Right.
Because it's competition. There's a scene where they meet each other for the first time. By the way, Heisenberg is Hitler's physicist. Mentioned in the show Breaking Bad, by the way, which is why Walter White uses the street name Heisenberg.
Right.
Say
my name.
By the way, I mentioned in the notes here, there's a scene where Oppenheimer puts his hat on for the first time, that actual hat, his signature hat, and it reminded me of the time when Walter White puts his hat on for the first time.
And becomes Heisenberg.
And becomes Heisenberg. I remember watching that going, is that Christopher Nolan doing an homage to Breaking Bad? Because that would be awesome if it was. But anyway, it was really not about... it was masked as, I want to save America, so we got to get the bomb before Germany does. He was really competing against Heisenberg. And that scene I was talking about, when they first meet each other, Heisenberg says, why are you going back to America? There's no physicist program there. You should stay here where all the action is. And what does Oppenheimer say? That's why I got to go back. Because I got to create it, right? I mean, think about it. He almost single-handedly built the physicist program that we know of at Berkeley and probably in America. Einstein had his theories, but Oppenheimer was like, I have to make physicists, the physics in America important again. You know what I mean? Like he almost saw himself as the counterpart to Heisenberg, that he had to be the Heisenberg of America. Yeah. Right? Where everybody in the country would turn to.
It is funny. I remember that scene where he put his hat on, and I totally see it now. I didn't get that link, when I first saw it, but I can't help but wonder, was that not only a nod to Breaking Bad, but it could be interpreted as when Walter White put that on and became Heisenberg. I mean,
he's evil.
Well, yeah. So is he saying that? Is he equating that some of the morality of Heisenberg is on his head too?
We're with me on this. I have something at the end when we get to the beats.
Okay, good.
On where this is going.
All right.
I'm so proud of you. You're starting to pick up spiritual goals. All right.
Let's go.
We have the beats. Opening image. Oppie. By the way, this is one of the best examples of opening and closing images bookending each other. Opening image. Oppie watches the raindrops land on puddles, right? Yeah. And you know what he's looking at, right? That's what it looks like when nuclear bombs are dropping on different cities. The raindrops hitting puddles is going to happen several times in the movie. Even when there's no rain. There's a scene where he's looking at the map and he's just sort of envisioning it being water.
Yeah, yep.
And on the cities, the raindrops are hitting, right? It's symbolism, obviously, for nuclear war. And it's such a perfect because of the bookend that happens later at the end. I also noted the theme is, while the theme will be presented at the 6-minute mark, this might be the only time I remember that a theme's ideology is put right in the front on the title card. Before the title of the movie, all you see is fire, right? And the title card comes up that says, quote, Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. For this, he was chained to a rock and tortured for eternity.
Yeah.
Is that not fucking Oppenheimer's theme throughout the whole fucking movie? That no matter what I do, they're coming after me, right? I put that's about as close to a theme as you can get without it actually being the theme. The real theme comes 6 minutes in. Oppie meets Niels Bohr, who's played by Kenneth Branagh. Niels tells Oppie, quote, "You can lift the stone without being ready for the snake that's revealed." That's his theme. It's basically the same thing as what I just read, right? About no matter how high you go, no matter what you achieve, there's going to be the serpents that come for you after, right? It's very telling. No matter the success, the snakes will always try to get them. Still in the setup mode of a lengthy first act. Remember, it's a 3-hour film. A lengthy first act. We jump from lateral timeline to future, which still in color, but it's Oppenheimer's security clearance deposition while he's applying to get his security clearance continued. And the black and white future, which actually takes place 5 years after the security clearance deposition, which is mostly of Senator Lewis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr., telling his side of the story. So here's a little interesting thing. Remember I told you I write the scenes down?
Yeah.
When I did the scene breakdown for this film, my daughter's Vivi, who's 7, I went into her arts and crafts thing that we got her, and I found a pen that has, remember the old pens we used to use in high school that had like the different colors?
Yeah.
She has one of those. I used it, and everything in black was lateral storytelling. Anything that was in red was the future in color deposition.
Yeah.
Anything in purple was the future black and white Robert Downey Jr. story. So I did that so that I could keep track of how it laid out.
Right.
And I'm glad I did, because when you look at it from a whole, just flipping the pages, by the way, I showed V, I was like, normally when I do a scene breakdown, it's a page and a half. Oppenheimer's like 4 pages long of scenes. Because remember, I said they're quick. They're quick scenes, so there's a lot of them. So, but there's a lot of them, and they're all different colors. Like, it looks kind of cool on the page. I'll have to text it to you.
Wow.
But anyway, all right. So, a couple of interesting moments, specifically at the 22-minute mark when he meets and starts his affair with Jean Tatlock, played by my favorite Florence Pugh. There's a line of dialogue, "And now I've become death, the destroyer of worlds." This, of course, is Oppie's biggest fear. One interesting note, if there is a flaw in the script at all, I will concede that the cutaways to the security clearance deposition scenes, they serve to tell the exposition without having to show it in the scene of it happening in real time. The problem with that is that they're still just talking.
Yeah.
So they're masking exposition with exposition. So kind of counterproductive. But I still think here's why I justified that it still worked, was that it gave him a chance to tell the audience what he was thinking or what the board was thinking, right? Like in a scene, he might be doing one of those stare-offs that you complained about, right? He will do a stare-off, but then in the deposition, he'll be like, "My biggest fear was this or that." You know what I mean? Like, he's telling you what he was thinking.
Yeah.
So it's exposition, but it's masked by more exposition. Okay, inciting incident, 28 minutes in, the first mention that a bomb could be made from their physics findings. The fact that they were, talking about the atom, and they were discussing the atom at 28-minute mark is where they first say, "You could make," or what is it? One of them says to Oppenheimer, "Well, you know what that means, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, we can make a bomb." Like that's the first mention is 28 minutes in. But this isn't enough to propel us into Act 2. This is just the inciting incident. B story. Chris, about what time does the B story come in?
30 minutes in.
31-minute mark. Oppie meets Kitty, his future wife, at Richard's party. He'll eventually marry her, and Kitty serves as the B story because she's the one that's going to help Oppie to his spiritual goal. Catalyst at the 43-minute mark, which is practically right on for a 3-hour movie. It's a little late in normal films,
right,
but for a 3-hour film, 43-minute mark Catalyst is fine. It's intro to Lieutenant Groves, played by Matt Damon, and his plan for the Manhattan Project. Boom. This is it. It catapults us into Act 2. Break into 2, the creation of Los Alamos, the city out in the desert that they built. We are now in the mirror flip of Act 1. Oppie and his companions are in the upside-down world now, as they are sort of like separated from society in this little town that they've built with one purpose and one purpose only, to make the bomb. The Manhattan Project is on its way. Fun and games, montage of trailer moments as we deliver on the premise. In this segment, we see Oppie put the hat on for the first time.
Yep.
I wrote that on here. I even put on here almost like an homage to Walter White in Breaking Bad. Also in this segment, we meet some of the other key players. Teller, Fuchs, and his relationship with Chevalier, his friend, and the hint that they might want him to commit treason. There's a scene with the big glass bowl that they have to fill up with marbles. This is an interesting technique that Nolan does here. This is what's called the ticking clock, right? In some movies where there's time as a factor, they might say, you know, like, we got 48 hours left to save the girl, you know what I mean? Like Commando, right? The flight is 11 hours. So Schwarzenegger has 11 hours to go find his daughter before they kill her, right? Most films will have an obvious ticking clock. This one's very clever. It's a big glass bowl.
Yeah.
And when they start at Los Alamos, he throws in like 3 marbles. He's like, that's all we have right now. He's like, so you know, as the movie goes on, they use that to show the audience how close they're getting to completing the bomb. Right. The fuller that bowl gets, right? That bowl gets, you know that they're close to getting it. Very clever technique by Nolan for a ticking clock. A lot more development fleshed out here. Oppie goes to Chicago to meet with physicists Szilard and Fermi. Also meets David Hill, played by Rami Malek.
Yeah.
From Bohemian Rhapsody fame. Well, and many other things, but, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody is one of my favorite films of his. And he's going to be huge later, so that's where he gets introduced. While briefing Groves at Los Alamos, Oppie says, quote, hard to put a price on it. And Groves replies, not really, just add up the bills.
Yeah, right. I like that part.
In one security clearance deposition scene, Oppie tells of the last time he saw Jean Tatlock, and Kitty can't help but visually see them having sex right in front of her. Like, he's naked. In her eyes, he's naked in the deposition, and Jean's on him, like straddling him.
Yeah, that was like shocking.
Staring at her, right?
Right.
Like, so you know that's been burning in Kitty's brain.
Right.
For what? At this point, how many years had gone by? You know what I mean? Like, she's still not ever going to let that go, that he was cheating with Jean Tatlock. Midpoint scene, 1 hour, 27 minutes in, almost exactly an hour and a half into a 3-hour film, mind you. Niles Bohr comes to visit to the Christmas party at Los Alamos and tells Oppie some important news that Heisenberg had taken a wrong turn in his research. And now that likely cost him months of time in behind. And Oppie says, we're now ahead. Remember, up until this moment, they'd been behind the Germans.
Yeah.
Oppie even says earlier, I keep calling him Oppie because that's what they call him in the movie.
Right.
So earlier, Oppie said, like, they have a 2-year head start on us or a 6-month head start on us or whatever. Like, they're still 6 months ahead. They're still 3 months ahead, whatever. At this point, it's a false victory. It seems like a victory. He's like, oh, my God, we're ahead now. They're behind. It's going to take them months to catch up. Mm-hmm. Where we're at, we're going to finish before them. Huge victory. False victory, though. And why is it a false victory? Because we know in the second half everything goes to shit, as usual. False victory, bad guys closing in. What happens almost immediately at the end of that scene where Niles Bohr comes to tell him that they're now ahead because Heisenberg made a wrong turn? How does that scene end? Do you remember?
I can't remember.
Dr. Oppenheimer, you have a call from San Francisco?
Oh, yeah.
Jean's dead.
Yeah.
That ends
Suicide,
that scene.
Yeah.
So talk about how quickly the bad guys closing in happens after you reach that false victory, that moment of happiness, how fast it can turn to shit. She's dead. And there's a scene of how she killed herself. And as disputed, by the way, in real life, in the book and on Wikipedia, because I looked it up, there is one shot that Nolan puts in there of a gloved hand holding her head down to suggest that she was killed, not suicide, that she was murdered.
Yeah, I noticed that, and it was kind of confusing because it was looking like a suicide, and then all of a sudden, it's like, what the heck? So,
and it's just one shot. He just throws one shot in there of a hand.
Yeah.
And you know, Oliver Stone did the same thing in JFK with the Joe Pesci's character death scene, where it's an obvious suicide, right? But there's a shot where he's being chased around his apartment and then held down while he's forced to take these pills. And you're like, oh, fuck, so he didn't kill himself. He was murdered. They don't say that that's what happened. They're just giving a suggestion to the audience.
Right.
What if that's what really happened? You know what I mean? So much so it's disputed, like I said in the book. They don't really know. They think it's a suicide, but nobody knows for sure. So I put here, almost immediately at the end of the scene, Oppie finds out about Jean, the call from San Francisco. While ruled a suicide, it looks like death. As Oppie is in despair, this is one of my favorite moments right after that scene. He's out. Kitty's trying to find him on the horse, right? She's riding her horse to find him. She finds him in complete despair. she says a great line as he's trying to, he's falling apart. She's trying to hold him back together. Again, Kitty's the B story. She's serving as, you need to fight. You need to pull yourself together and, pull yourself up by your bootstraps shit. That's her throughout the whole movie.
Right.
That's her B story. She grabs him and says, quote, "You don't get to commit the sin and then have us all feel sorry for you that it had consequences."
Yeah.
And then she stands
up.
Another
great line.
Yeah. And this movie's littered with great moments like that. And then she stands up, and as she's about to walk away, she's like, "You need to pull yourself together." You know what I mean? Get it together, man. Move on. Which, to your point, you wished he would have done that early. Just move on. You just get on with it. You know what you're doing. All right. More bad guys closing in moments. Teller quits, though Oppie talks him into staying. The Borden introduction. This is the guy that directly sent to be sicked on Oppenheimer to dig up dirt on him. And it's in that scene that Oppie sees the raindrops on the map again. So it's kind of revisiting. Oppie stumbles upon a private meeting ran by Lily Hornig that seems to be against the bomb, anti-bomb, where all of a sudden, remember he just happened to see that flyer and he's like, "What the hell is this?" So he goes to the meeting and it's all these people that are like, "Yes, we shouldn't do the bomb." And he's like, "The fuck we've been doing here this whole time? We're building the bomb." But it's interesting to note that they mentioned in that scene, Hitler had already killed himself. Mm-hmm. The war with Germany was over.
Right.
So they're saying we don't need it anymore. And he was adamant. No, we still need it. We still need it. The Japs aren't going to surrender. The Japanese aren't going to surrender. They're going to, stay in this. We need to still continue the war or the building of the bomb. Physicist Sillard from Chicago is also now openly against the bomb. These are all bad guys closing in. Interesting structure that Nolan does. He interrupts the bad guys closing in because there's a meat of the bad guys closing in and then another meat. But smacked right dab in the middle is actually some good stuff, and that is the ignition of the test bomb.
Yeah.
And that whole scene, right? It's interrupted by the positive sequence, test bomb ignition and huge success. Groves asks about the possibility of Oppie's fears that the atomic explosion would start a chain reaction that sets fire to the entire atmosphere and destroys the world. And Oppie says, it's near zero.
Near zero.
Near zero. And he says, what do you want with a theory like this? And he goes, well, zero would be nice. Another great line. Yeah. Another great moment. It doesn't happen, obviously. The test bomb goes off without a hitch. It's perfect. They, of course, then take two bombs, which is, of course, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. As Grove says, we do two. This is a quote. One, to show what we can do. The other, to show we can do whenever we want it. The Japanese, of course, surrender after those two bombs. Conversation with Teller, Oppie says, once it's used, nuclear war, perhaps all war, becomes unthinkable. Teller replies, until someone builds a bigger bomb. Again, very telling that this... Oppenheimer's almost naive at this point. Because he's almost like, I just want to build the bomb, I want to beat Heisenberg to it, but just building it should be enough that all world war would end. Because we would have the one weapon that ends all wars, so who would ever want to fight again? Not realizing the naivete is that other countries will then build their own bombs.
Right.
And it'll never end. War will never end. How naive can you be? Right? Okay, so now that little happy moment of the bomb was a success and we won the war, Japanese have surrendered, is over, bad guys continue to close in. A few more elements here as we pick back up in there. Oppie meets Truman, the famous Truman scene. It doesn't go well. Oppie thinks the program should be stopped now that they've got the bomb. Of course, Truman wants to keep going, and he wants to actually build the H-bomb in addition to it. And then, of course, is the whole blood on my hands scene. He hands him a tissue and says, I have twice as blood as you have. One of the other key lines here, which I think, actually, this line happens before that. This is what starts to rub Truman the wrong way. Truman says, I hear you're leaving Los Alamos. What should we do with it? Oppie replies, give it back to the Indians. Truman did not like that answer at all.
Right.
And then, of course, the scene after that, Strauss tells Oppie at that wedding that Fuchs was the one that was the Russian spy the whole time, delivering information back to the Russians.
Right.
Which is another interesting element to this whole story. Is that their idea is that they want to beat the Russians to the bomb. The Russians were our allies at the time.
Yeah.
But they almost refused to give information to the Russians. The Russians were like, hey, man, tell us what you got. We're in on this together. And America was like, you're our friend now.
Yeah, they knew. I mean, they knew who Stalin was.
Right.
So he was an ally by necessity.
Right.
You know.
And so they almost flat out refused to let them in on anything.
Yeah.
And the fact that this Fuchs physicist was a spy and was delivering information to the Russians, is a huge, huge point, which leads, of course, to the all is lost. Oppie sees footage of Hiroshima aftermath and is nauseated. He can't even look at it. Remember that scene where
and that's another scene I got angry. I was like, look at it. Dude, look at it. You need to look at it, man. Look at it.
He starts to. He watches the beginning of it, but then he's just so thrown off.
Doesn't watch anymore.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Strauss feeds the hit story to Time magazine. It was Strauss who hired Borden to sick him on Oppie. And at the 2-hour, 25-minute mark, Strauss's discrediting plan is shown in lateral timeline, and it completely destroys Oppenheimer's stature and legacy. And as Strauss puts it, as, quote, amateurs seek the sun, get eaten. Power stays in the shadows. Dark Night of the Soul. While it is clear that the security clearance deposition was rigged from the start, Oppie perfectly plays the victim. Kitty, ever so strongly delivering on her role as the B story to deliver him to his spiritual goal, keeps urging him to fight. Break into 3. They decide to fight and the rigged security clearance deposition by hiring one of the best lawyers to serve Oppie's legacy. That's, of course, 5-point finale. Starts off with that, gathering the team. They hire the best lawyer, and they get as many witnesses to speak on their behalf, and they get several. Execution of the plan, battling Roger Robb and the testimonies during the deposition and calling out when things appear rigged. The defense attorney didn't get documents ahead of time, right?
Right.
Like, he kept saying, you guys all have this. Can I get a copy? Oh, you can't. It's classified.
Yeah.
Like, how can I do my job if you're not letting me look at any of this shit?
Yeah, it was a sham.
He can't object. He can't strike things from the record. I mean, he's completely powerless, but they're still there. They're still digging in. They're still fighting. Hightower surprise. The Borden deposition. Oh, my God. He flat out calls Oppie a Russian spy and a traitor to his country. That is crippling. Dig down deep, intercut with Strauss's confirmation hearing. David Hill, Rami Malek comes to save the day.
Yeah.
The physicist from Chicago just buries Strauss at the Senate hearing.
Yeah, that was great.
Execution of the new plan. Suddenly, more battling back begins with Vannevar Bush, played by Matthew Modine, is testifying in Oppie's favor.
Isn't it Matthew Modine?
What did I say?
Modine.
Whatever. Testifies against Strauss. Teller and Groves both say that by the current rules of the AEC, which is the Atomic Energy Commission, by the way, by those current standards, Oppie probably wouldn't be cleared for security, but they both go out of their way to say he's not a traitor to America. He loves America first.
Right.
So while they say that, hey, under oath or whatever, by today's rules, he probably wouldn't be cleared for clearance, he's still not a traitor. He's still an American, and he should be treated as an American hero.
Yeah, and they noted those rules didn't exist when he was cleared.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Climax, right about the time David Hills is metaphorically putting the final nails in Strauss's coffin. Actually, I wrote here, he's taking Strauss out to the woodshed in the Senate hearing.
Right.
Kitty takes the stand in the deposition and wipes the floor with Roger Robb. While Oppie is ultimately denied his security clearance, it is said out loud by all the board members that they believe him to be an honorable American and that he wasn't a traitor. The next scene, Strauss is denied his seat. So that's about as perfect climax as you can get.
Right.
Resolution, Oppie is eventually awarded his medal and his legacy is restored in the later years when they show him as an old man. Great scene. Kitty refuses to shake Teller's hand when he puts it out to him.
Yeah.
Now, in the movie, he reaches his hand out. She refuses to shake it. He understands why, and he just sort of walks away. In the book, they said factually that happened. He went up to shake her hand. She refused to shake his hand. He started crying.
Wow.
I know. That's intense.
Wow.
The guilt, right? Wow. And, of course, the last thing, resolution, Oppie and Einstein, what they were really talking about. Strauss was so much into belief that he was talking shit about him.
Right,
they weren't talking about Strauss at all.
Yeah, he was self-consumed.
Yeah, they were setting up the possibility of nuclear war. If we build this, what will come next, right? And, of course, that's the closing image where you've got the what do you call it? The vapor trails of all the nuclear missiles that had dropped, which goes inside with the opening image of the raindrops falling on the map.
Yep.
And that's how the movie ends, bookending a perfect closing image. So again, like Midsummer, when I told you that story where I was like, cut to black, cut to black, cut to black, cut to black. Same thing here. When I saw those vapor trails and I remember the opening image, I'm like, oh, dude, just end it right here. Just end it. Just end it. I just want to see Oppenheimer. I don't want to see any title cards. I don't want to see 10 years later he died in 1960. Don't tell me. Just give me directed by Christopher Nolan. You know what I mean? Like, and it happened. And that's when I walk out of movies saying that's it. That's my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
So character arc. Oppie's tangible goal obviously was to build a bomb for the Germans. His spiritual goal was to fight for his legacy, something he would never thought he needed to do at the beginning, right?
Right.
By the way, we kind of buried the lead on that. The whole movie, he's surprised anyone's even coming after him. He's like, do you know what I've done for America?
Right.
Who cares if I fucked a communist and had communist friends? I mean, who cares? I wasn't in the party. He just couldn't understand that wasn't enough.
Right.
That politics in America at that time was, no, but you knew communists. That's bad enough.
Right.
You were fucking one behind your wife's back, for God's sakes. Like, I mean, that was enough. So, okay, so before we get to that end that you were touching on, I do want to put in one other piece that I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Was in the end, when the lawyer is trying to combat their witnesses with his witnesses, and they mentioned Dr. Lawrence. Dr. Lawrence, who's played by Josh Hartnett, by the way, was one of his confidants throughout the movie, but he realized he was going to be testifying against him, and he was like, why? Why would he do that? And the lawyer says, I don't have it quoted. I should have written this down, but he says something along the lines of, well, he thinks you were fucking Tolman's wife. That's why he became depressed, died of a broken heart, and he blames you for that. And Oppie goes, well, that's not true. And the lawyer goes, which part? And Oppie goes, he never found out.
Yeah.
So he was fucking that woman. So you get the sense that, goddamn, dude, he's married to Kitty. He was fucking Jean Tatlock, a communist, and now he's fucking some other guy's wife.
Yeah.
Like Jesus,
he had
dude.
a little Bill Clinton problem.
Dude, he's packing a tree trunk down there or something. God. He's the Pete Davidson of the physicist world.
Oh, God.
Anyway, so I thought that little part was funny because after he says that, the lawyer kind of gives him a look like. Oh no, it wasn't the lawyer. It was the guy that David Krumholtz plays. What's his name? Fuck, I forget his name. But it was Robbie. It was Dr. Robbie. So Robbie is the one that says it. But it was just funny the way he said it. He was like, "Oh, he believes all of these things." Well, that's not true.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. And which part? He's like, "Oh, just the one part." All right, so.
Wow.
I can't even get a word in here.
This could be a White Claw commercial.
I got to keep up here. All right. So here's the part that you were touching on.
Yeah.
I put in the arcs. Here's another element to the theme of the opening title card and before the raindrops about the Prometheus thing.
Uh-huh.
Was Oppie's real spiritual goal something darker and more sinister than he thought? That because of him, we have the capacity for nuclear war today, right? I think he realizes this right before the closing credits, where he gives off one of those stares you hate so badly, but he's got the tears in his eyes, and that's when he starts to have the images of the vapor trails of the nuclear bombs and everything.
Right.
And the raindrops and all that comes back. Was Oppie's spiritual goal really not to secure his legacy as an American hero, but was it to be the Angel of Death? Right? The destroyer of worlds, as he said earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
Was that not his spiritual goal? Is that not what Oppenheimer created? You know? So something dark there when you said about putting on the hat and he's kind of channeling the evil sinisterness that was Heisenberg.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I don't feel like they tried to candy coat history at all, showing him with all his warts and flaws and, cheating on his wife. And,
yeah. In fact, the only admirable thing you could say was that he wanted to win World War II.
Yeah.
Everything else in this movie is very much detrimental.
Yeah.
His communist ties, like you said, his affairs on his wife. Like, he wasn't a very easy person to get along with.
Right.
He wasn't a very nice guy. His friend, his only best friend in the movie, Chevalier, he sells him down the river later on in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't a good guy. He just did the most polarizing thing to, A, win World War II, but also look where it got us to today. I mean, it's, again, could you say that there's a nuclear program because of J. Robert Oppenheimer, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I guess, and that's my biggest thing. It's like, I kind of wonder how much of his portrayed PTSD or, mental trauma was real, like in real life. Did the real man Oppenheimer struggle to the extent that this character did? I don't know. I don't know the history and all that.
I think he did, only because from what I read about the other things I told you that were in the book,
Yeah.
that Nolan tried to be as true as he could to the struggle that this guy had, realizing that his ego to succeed as a physicist was met harshly when he realized that his invention killed 200,000 people. Like,
Yeah, and potentially millions more. So
millions more,
billions
right?
more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was hard for me to have any sympathy for him, for the character, because of what he did, and as you said, his character, he wasn't a likable person, very hard to
Correct.
get along with. So, I saw him staring off into space with PTSD, I was like, yeah, go see a therapist, buddy.
But here's how beautifully it was constructed by Nolan. Why did we care? We cared because he constructed the Robert Downey Jr. character to be such a villain.
Yeah.
That you wanted to see that motherfucker lose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because he totally set him up. Yeah. Totally set him up to
absolutely
to
He's
be blacklisted.
Yep, absolutely. So that's kind of like those movies where your hero is flawed. You got to make the villain even more unlikable.
And we should say, like, the at least in the movie, the portrayed reason why he was trying to blacklist him was pretty much because he was anti-nuclear. Like, he was trying to call for more control, or the world to come around the idea of anti-proliferation of nuclear weapons.
But they hint that it was way weaker and pettier than that. It was that he embarrassed them at the AEC hearing.
Okay.
That's why he held a grudge. Like, think about that, how petty that is.
Well, I
right?
think, maybe it was that was his said motive. That was what he could point to, that because he was vocal his socialist views and ideas for.
But what did Oppenheimer say in the hearing that really pissed him off? He was sitting in the back. Remember, he was sitting in the back, and he said something about a sandwich is more productive or something.
Yeah.
He said something like, I'd rather take a sandwich, you can get more out of it, or something like that, talking about Strauss. And everybody laughs, and he was completely humiliated.
Right.
And there was that was his motivation to bury this guy's legacy.
His ego couldn't handle it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then again, neither could Oppenheimer's ego. He could have just played nice. But he had to hammer Strauss and embarrass him in front of everybody. That's what you get.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those where you want to try to be truthful to real life events. At the same time, you gotta, with this, Walk the Line was very similar, where the only way they would do it is if they showed everything. They showed that homeboy was a drunk,
Yeah.
That he was
addicted to drugs.
Addicted to drugs. He was a bastard to live with, bastard to know.
Cheated on his wife.
On his wife, So I think that's kind of one of those things where if you're going to make yourself, if your lead is going to be a flawed hero, the villain has to be worse.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and this is about real people. So, it's not a fictional story where you get to make up your characters to be heroes and everything. Real people are flawed,
Absolutely.
So and so I think he did a good job trying to portray the various dimensions of these real people, So
absolutely. So a couple other points in trivia here. The screenplay was actually written in first person, which is rare and almost never happens. Screenplays are written very, Chris comes in and grabs the glass of water, and then the dialogue will be Chris says, "Oh, this water is good," whatever. The screenplay for Oppenheimer was written. I walked into the room and grabbed a glass of water. Like, it was written first person. Or Matt Damon said that when he read the script, that's when he realized he wanted to do the movie because he had never seen that before.
Yeah.
In 2022, Oppenheimer's security clearance was posthumously reinstated. He'd already been dead since 1967. So
like,
why
thanks.
you're reinstating his security clearance now? But in 2022, they did do that. This is the 6th film that Cillian Murphy has worked on with Christopher Nolan, following Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, and Dunkirk. However, this is the first of those where he was the lead.
Wow. Yeah.
That's all I got.
I don't think I have any more either. So
I loved it, man. I loved both of these films.
Yeah.
And
I'll
like
watch
I
it again,
said,
I think, but it's so long. God.
I just can't remember if there ever was a year where two films just completely owned the box office,
Yeah.
completely owned the Oscar nominations, were released on the same day, had the same budget. One made $500 million more, but it's not like one of them made nothing. One of them made $957 million. The other one made $1.4 billion.
In hindsight, I'm actually surprised Oppenheimer did as well as it did, considering its length and how dialogue heavy and I don't know. I mean,
the visuals are also good. And I
Yeah.
think people went to go see the visuals, particularly on the IMAX. But to your point, the reason studios hate movies that long, there's not as many screenings.
Yeah.
Right?
They can't make
And
as much normally.
Right. Right. In a daytime, you have screenings normally start at what? What's the matinee show? 11 a.m.?
Yeah, every 90 minutes, get another pack of people in there, right?
Right. So when you have a long-ass movie, you don't make as much. So for Oppenheimer at 3 hours to make $957 million worldwide is pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, it is. 100%. All right, 6 Degrees.
Oh, I forgot we had a 6 Degrees.
Yeah, for the listener, I didn't think we were going to be able to do this podcast today, but I sent my brother a text just in case. I threw a couple names at him.
So again, for those of you that want to know the character of my brother,
What? What do you
this
mean
is
character?
what he does. This is what he does. He picks two people. Now, let me just tell you, the guy from Oppenheimer, which, by the way, we're not allowed to use the movies that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Petrie Willink?
Yep.
Guess who he was in Oppenheimer? He played Dutch student. Wow. Thanks. Looking at his IMDb, it's filled with TV shows. I only found one feature that he was in, and it was called The Great Alaskan Race in 2019. Never heard of it. The other guy he picks is Oliver Vakir, who plays in Barbie, get this, businessman. If you look at his IMDb, it's mostly television and video games. The guy does voices for video games. In fact, I could only find one feature film for him. And that was a film called The Baby Moon in 2017. I only found, other than Barbie and Oppenheimer, these two people were in only one other movie that I could find.
So that's what makes it interesting, though, because as we say on every episode, this isn't a Stump Jerome game. We actually want to find out if it's possible that we cannot connect two actors within 6 degrees, within 6 movies. And you've been able to do it every time. So in the last couple of episodes, they've been pretty difficult.
They've been getting tougher and tougher.
So how'd we do?
Got it in 4. Of course. So Oliver Vakir was in The Baby Moon 2017 with Michael DiLorenzo, who was in Alive. Remember that?
Yeah.
That movie about the stranded rugby players in the was it the Andes?
Yeah, didn't they eat people?
Yeah, they eat each other, 1993. In that film was John Malkovich, who not only did the narration, but he also appears in it as, they visually show him giving the dialogue. He was in Mulholland Falls in 1996 with Treat Williams, who was in The Great Alaskan Race.
Wow.
2019 with Petrie Willink.
That's 4.
So, Baby Moon, Alive,
That's crazy,
Mulholland
man.
Falls, Great Alaskan Race. And we can thank Treat Williams for this one.
Yeah.
Because that guy, Petrie Willink, I couldn't find shit on him except that one movie. And thank God Treat Williams was in it.
Yeah.
And because Oliver, his one movie, The Baby Moon, Michael DiLorenzo was the only one I really knew that was in it.
Yeah.
And he, other than Alive, I don't know if you know, he famously played PFC William T. Santiago in A Few Good Men.
Okay.
So I was going to try to go there. I'm like, shit, that gives me an out. That's Jack. That's Demi Moore. That's Tom Cruise.
Right.
Nothing. I got dead ends.
Wow.
Thank God for Alive. Jeez.
That's fun. So, the last one was fun, too, because the last one that's available now, if you're listening to this, that's not available yet as we record. But the last one, you had 2 different actors on 2 different continents that only did a couple of movies each, right?
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been done if I couldn't use one of them. We had to break one of our own rules.
Yeah, but that was cool. So listen to that episode for that one. That was crazy. So no, that's good, man. Good pair up. It was fun.
Dude, I've been looking for this episode. I tell you what, I was looking forward to this since I saw Oppenheimer in the theater last July. Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, dude, we got to break this one down eventually. And I didn't know we'd pair it with Barbie.
Yeah.
But hey, man, we took on 2 of the heavy hitters, man. This is Apollo versus Rocky right here.
Yeah.
These are the 2 biggies.
I mean, we're trying to get through them so that we can, at least go into Oscar night having a few in the can,
Yeah, I think Killers of the Flower Moon, The Holdovers, which is the Paul Giamatti one.
Yeah.
And maybe that, you said you saw American Fiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, I haven't seen it yet. But I think we got to throw a few of those in there and we'll be ready. Yep. I haven't seen Maestro yet either.
Yeah, me neither.
It's streaming, though. I think it's on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix movie.
I think you're right.
Because V, I think, was watching it one night. I came in and she was watching it. Again, she falls asleep whenever she puts it
on. No. And I said I wanted to pair that with Amadeus, but we're trying to pair up Oscar-nominated movies.
Yeah,
so.
I say we just pair them up with each other.
Yeah.
So we can get through them faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so far, I haven't seen them all, but so far, Oppenheimer's still my favorite movie of the year. I really liked Anatomy of the Fall, man, but I really liked it more with my ending.
Yes, I know. I got to rewatch it now.
What I think happens at the end, and then you go back and you relive all that symbolism with the dog. I like it more that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was really cool. I really like that one.
I got to see it now to rewatch it and see if it hits differently with that in mind.
Yeah.
Because I bet you it will. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, it'll be, and all those little moments where she's looking, like I said, she's got the look of both predator and prey.
Yeah.
There's times where I think the director, Trier, makes you think she's guilty as fuck, man. Look at her eyes. Look at her eyes. So watch it again thinking she's guilty, and it'll blow your mind.
Yeah. All right.
Because I went into it thinking she was guilty. So when it got to the end, I was like, yeah, she's guilty. She's guilty as fuck. But anyway, all right, let's land this plane.
All right, this is a good one, man. So, hey, support your local cinema.
Keep drinking and keep watching.
See you next time.
Adios.